call me Crazy Joe, but now they can call me Batman.
What up? Welcome back once again to the Necro Zoo. I am Bones. And in this one, let's go ahead and add one more figure to my McFarlane DC Multiverse collection. Now today we will continue the Flashpoint wave. The first figure we did receive was Aquaman, and today we will be taking a look at Subject 1, Superman. Now when we are done with this wave, we will be building a pretty sweet looking Cyborg figure, but we still have two figures to go. Now we do know the next one will be the Flash. That's the one that's going to come with two different heads, and then basically we're pretty sure it's going to be Wonder Woman, but we never know. Todd does like to switch it up on us, but basically it should be Wonder Woman from Flashpoint. Now I don't really know much about this character except for from the animated film, which is one of my favorite DC animated films, but he does have a different look in that story. This is more based on the comics, so I'm not too familiar with it, but I am pretty interested to check it out. It's always a good day when I have my Connor Kent shirt on and I'm about to look at a new figure. But this guy does look pretty frightened in the packaging, but let's go ahead and take a closer look at him. But first, he does come with your standard black DC Multiverse stand. Now of course these are not really needed, but sometimes they do come in useful. He also comes with his data file card. On the front you do have some source material from the Flashpoint comics. Pretty emaciated looking Subject 1, which is actually Superman, that's been like held underground and tested on and pretty much basically tortured till he gets out. On the back you do have some information. Pretty cool. We'll add that to the collection. Now, no accessories specifically for him. I really wish they would have given us the alternate hands, you know, another fist and another gesturing hand, but with that skin tone from this figure. Kind of frustrating, but fine. He does though come with the two parts for Cyborg. He comes with the left just regular arm and then the right cannon arm. Now this is from the source material. His right arm doesn't really change like usual. It's usually I'm pretty sure it's usually just a cannon. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but it is a pretty big cannon. Nicely sculpted, nice detail. Pretty cool. We'll hold on to these. But let's go ahead and take a closer look at them. First impressions. Now, when they first released the images of this guy, I kind of was, it was like a head scratcher because I was like, okay, I didn't expect that. But also I expected him in his other uniform, which is from the Flashpoint animated. I didn't really know about this actual suit. You know, I'd seen him before, but I thought it was just like a weird, different alternate version. Now I do remember seeing those, like, there was like some little toys. I'm not sure what line they were from. It might have been some kind of DC superheroes, but they had a little figure of this character. And I always remember thinking, wow, is that supposed to be Superman? Because it looks different than the animated film. But yes, that is supposed to be Subject 1, Superman. So that's where I kind of knew my first images of the character. And then of course in the comics he did play a prominent role, but now it's even more in the newer Flashpoint comics. He does look really good. Now once again, this is the John Kent body. They have used it various times. It has to be 8 now, at least 8 or 7, something like that. But once again, in the all black, this is a good use of that body because there's not really any like need to change the sculpt or anything. It's just supposed to be a plain suit, although he does have a little bit of the old sculpt from the original character, where when they actually thought if they were going to reuse this buck, they should have just made it a plain body without any kind of details, and those details could have been added on to each figure as they went. But live and learn. Hopefully in the future they'll learn from that. Now for some reason, as always, in hand it looks really different. Like I'm really digging the just like the feel that this figure gives off. Pretty intense. You got that crazy symbol on the chest. Interesting figure. I didn't really expect much from it, especially after seeing the first images, but having them here in hand, rather interesting looking figure. Let's go ahead and take a look at the head sculpt. Now this really surprises me because once again, when we saw the images, I was like, man, that head sculpt is not very appealing to the eye. And in all honesty, now that he's here in hand, it's a really nice head sculpt. It actually gives a lot more personality and feel than I thought it would. Just really giving off a cool presence. So rather interesting. I didn't think I would like the head sculpt, and actually I really do enjoy it. He has that curl, the Superman curl. Of course, this character is really skinny because they've had him underground. All the characters in Flashpoint are a little bit different than how they normally would be. Cyborg, he like works for the government, so he's like a big tank, like he's really big. He has all kinds of technology from the government, so he's like really boosted up his armor. And then of course, you know, Thomas Wayne, which is a figure we already have received from McFarlane, is actually Bruce Wayne's father, and he uses guns, so pretty crazy, different alternate universe. But yeah, awesome head sculpt. Really enjoying it more than I thought I would. Now, he actually has the curl here is really nice. Sticks out prominently on his forehead. And then also he has a little bit of stubble. And this is actually from the source material. You can see like he has that 5 o'clock shadow. And they kind of, I saw different ones of these because actually I did already buy 3 of these.
God, you're sick.
And 2 are to open, 1 is to custom, and 1 is to keep in my unopened collection. But all 3 had a little bit of different kind of paint stubble. Like one had it a little bit more than the other. It looks like they just slapped them in the face with the brush. But it worked for what it is. So really loving that head sculpt. Let's take a look at the articulation. Man, he looks down really well. I could already imagine this guy floating and looking down. Cool. He looks up exceptionally. The hair doesn't really get in the way, and he still looks up, has some good range. And he, like I said, he gives off a lot more character than I thought he would. Like it just, really is interesting to finally get him in hand, and I'm really enjoying him. You got right to left, and you could tilt his head for some attitude. Pretty cool. I'm just blown away at how much I like the head sculpt when I thought that I was really not going to like it. And yeah, it's really nice. Awesome. Let's take a look at the chest. You got that crazy emblem, like a weird kind of, like just a regular S with a circle with a 1. So I'm sure in the source material it explains this, but it's just looks kind of weird. I would have rather him had like a Superman shield, like some version of the Superman shield, maybe with a 1 on it. But that's fine. That's how it is in the comic. So it is coming straight out of the pages of the comic. Pretty nice. Trunks are just regular. They don't really have any real texture or anything, but they do have some wrinkles there. They do have a interesting cut at the top. Pretty nice. Take a look at the waist articulation. You do have side to side. You got tilt-a-whirl at the waist. You get a nice range. You got a lower waist swivel, upper chest swivel. You can twist them, get them in some action poses. Now this is where you begin to get where as soon as you move it out of where it's supposed to be, you break up the sculpt or like the design of that symbol on his chest, which I don't really like, but there's not really any way to remedy that. I mean, it's really hard to fix that. I mean, the only way is like if you were to paint it like underneath as well, and even though it would look elongated, the symbol would, but at least it would still have color there. But it is what it is. It's just really unfortunate that as soon as you move them, like it breaks up that cool design. Now he does have a slight crunch. You can actually see it when I move that upper torso down, how it passes that circle symbol, but it's not a lot, but it is there. You could mod these and get a little bit more crunch out of them, but usually I won't take the time to do it unless I really, want the character to crunch that much. But this is fine. Of course, he could lean back, but the negative is that you do make a gap in that chest symbol. That's one thing I do not like. Take a look at the shoulder. You got that socket and bushing shoulder joint. A lot of range, a lot of movement. Got some up and down at the shoulder, front to back, bicep swivel, double jointed elbows, look pretty good. Moving down on the costume, like I said, not really any texture. You have slight like sculpt design that is from all the way since John Kent, so it's not really anything new. And then moving down, it does look pretty cool though in that plain black, but of course that's my favorite color. But it does, the simplicity actually makes it look good. And then you go down into a fist. You do have that McFarlane wrist articulation with hinge and swivel, 4 ways of articulation. Go to the other side, it's the same thing, but you go down to actually a gesturing hand. Now these are the same hands that come with John Kent, with Nightwing, with all of the characters that use this body, but they use fists or kind of that gesturing hand, or of course that speedster karate chopping hand. But of course one thing is that they are interchangeable. So if you really wanted to, you could get some from John Kent and put them on this figure, which we'll probably end up doing here later on in the video. Check out the T-pose. Pretty nice. Can't really get any higher than that, but you can move his arms above his head. Going down to the thighs. Has a nice, generous hip swivel. And of course you can use this to move the boot from side to side without having an unappealing thigh cut, so that would break up the sculpt. And this way you could keep the sculpt line and still move the foot. Can kick up pretty high. Kick back as well. Now don't be afraid when you extend the trunks like this, when you move the leg back. It doesn't do anything to the trunks because that is why they are soft rubber. And when you put them back, they actually go back to their original shape. But that's just to allow you to get more range. You can cock out his knee. You got that cool McFarlane hip swivel. Double jointed knees. Straighten them out. Up and down. Right to left. Rocker. Toe articulation. Before we go, we will look at the lower body, but there is not much to look at. It is just that same plain buck, all painted black. In one of the designs that I saw, something cool was that the trim at the bottom was white, kind of like how Nightwing is. The bottom of the foot is blue. So in some of the images of this character, he had white like at the bottom. And I think that would kind of add a little bit of contrast, like separation, to have a little bit of white around the trim. But then I did look up more images, and that it didn't really show that anywhere else. It was just like a couple of times that he had the white at the bottom of the boots. Let's take a look at him from the bottom. No tread and no identifying marks. Moving up the back, pretty plain, pretty simple, but I do love that back sculpt. You do have a cutout there so he could reach farther back with his arm. And you got the back of the hair there. Pretty nice. All in all, really interesting. I didn't think I would enjoy him, but I actually am enjoying him more than I thought I would. Now, I did get some shots where you can remove his hand. I added a different gesturing hand just to, see how it looks. And then, of course, I added another fist. Now, they're not the same skin tone, but I can easily paint it to match the skin tone if I want to have a double-fisted Subject 1, which actually looks really cool and gives them some attitude and some, character. And speaking of that one, another thing I wanted to do was I wanted to go ahead and add some heat vision paint to this head sculpt. Now I went ahead and did 2 tones of red paint, and then I added just a little bit of shading of red around the eyes, and then I added just one single dot of like yellow, like sun yellow, that gives it a little bit more depth in the paint. If you just were to put blotches of red, that looks fine as well. But I just think this one gives it a little bit more of a realistic look, like it has those different tones. So, when you look at something, it has like red and then darker red, and then you'll have that middle with a little bit of almost white, right, with the heat vision eyes. And yeah, makes them, makes them really cool. The reason I did this is because I'm not worried about painting this guy, because I might end up repainting him more in that Flashpoint animated film design. Only reason I really had to think about it before I did it is because I would actually have to paint the S shield. It's just like a crazy design that connects to the top in like a lighter gray. That's kind of challenging, to do that. But either way, I could either have a new custom painted figure, or I'll just have an alternate head on the other one. But yeah, let's go ahead and check them out next to some other figures. First, we'll bring out my custom John Kent, and the reason he is custom is because on him I painted his eyes normally, because he actually came with heat vision eyes, but I really like how he looks with those just regular eyes. They look pretty good together. Can't complain. Then, of course, the other figure in this wave was the Flashpoint Aquaman. The only thing, of course, is he has that crazy screaming head. Now, this is kind of a negative, but I'm pretty sure the idea was to put him in a pose where he's, kind of like ready for war or attacking. And that's cool, but the only thing is that you kind of pigeonhole him into only that pose. So, I do like him. I do like the figure. It's just that head sculpt is like a one-time use. You can't really use them for anything else. So, but I do have my custom Flashpoint Aquaman that I actually repainted the suit to make it like a more reddish toned of scale armor that is actually in Flashpoint. And then I, of course, crazy custom I actually added teeth inside of the maw of this one to make him just look like he's grating his teeth instead of having that crazy scream. I did a little bit of repainting to his trident with some glossy gold. But all in all, pretty cool. I like him. He's gonna look cool up there on the shelf. I'd like him more than I thought I would. He's not the best figure ever, but just like any figure, you get them and you start moving them around, and then sometimes they grow on you. So that is always what's fun about collecting. All these different characters, all these different designs. But you guys, keep hunting out there, keep collecting, keep customizing, and I will see you on the next one.
They used to call me Crazy Joe, but now they can call me Batman.